Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got some breaking news to share with you that's developed within the mall community. We're going to be taking a look here at the Lafayette Square Mall here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Now called Window to the World, or whatever they're calling this thing. We're going to be looking at some old footage that I shot just before the mall closed up. We're going to be looking at a bunch of news footage to really uncover what is going on with this humongous retail development that I was so excited about all the way back in 2021 when it was announced. For those of you that are interested in the mall's history, I'll try and remember to put a card at the end of the video or a link in the description box below. This mall was purchased a few years ago by Soho Capital, a local company out of the Indianapolis area. The vision was to turn this into a multi-million-dollar retail and economic hub for the area. Think of like an international type market where all the stores cater to all the ethnic groups of the area. But to paint a better picture, here's the original news story detailing what was to come of the Lafayette Square Mall as it transformed into Window to the World.
Happening today, a big announcement involving Lafayette Square Mall and the surrounding International Marketplace area. We can expect to see a major transformation right at this area over the next few years.
Here's what's happened. A local developer has bought up properties over 15 years and has this grand plan to create a mixed-use destination neighborhood on the near northwest side of Indy. Rich Nye tonight shows us how this mall is going to become a window to the world.
Lafayette Square Mall has struggled for years, even more than most malls in a distressed economic area. But the new owner sees great potential with a plan to invest $200 million into turning the mall and surrounding campus into what will be called Window to the World.
The malls, as we know it, they're no longer viable. That's why what we're doing now is to trying to think the mall as a neighborhood where the anchor stores will be apartment complexes, boutique hotels, corporate offices, etc.
A neighborhood concept where people live, work, play, eat, and yes, still shop. The interior of the mall will become indoor streets that recreate scenes from around the world.
What used to be Incredible Pizza will become an event center. Part of the incredible plans for this mall, expected to be completed by the end of next year.
Antonio Maxey opened the Nap or Nothing store in the mall almost 7 years ago, selling apparel of his Indianapolis-based brand.
It's my first location, so it's been awesome. I've grown here, I've matured here as a businessman. I love it here.
Maxey likes what he sees in the development, but just hopes that many current local tenants like him can afford to stay.
The mall deserves it, this area deserves it, West 38th Street deserves it. As long as it embodies the community that West 38th Street is, then I think it's a plus.
The best way for me to be successful is to have the best property in the neighborhood. I charge a little bit less, and that way I can choose my tenants.
The overall project goes beyond the mall to other properties in the area, including renovating a movie theater, building a new school, and multiple sports facilities.
All right, thanks, Rich. So you might be wondering, like we were, who is the person behind this massive project and this big strategy? Well, this is what we've learned. Fabio Dela Cruz is a principal of Soho's Capital. Now, this is a local company that right now owns more than 250 acres in the Lafayette Square area. He first came here from Argentina back in 2001. And he says that his first job here in Indianapolis was washing dishes at Don Pablo's. Remember that restaurant? Well, after that, he went on to become a loan officer, an appraiser, and then a top producing real estate agent.
So after hearing all the news about the redevelopment, I was so excited to finally see a mall not just be demolished and turned into a giant mixed-use thing, but actually to be saved as retail and revitalized, something that could benefit the community and not just a bunch of office space or a giant Amazon warehouse, that type of a thing. And I've been checking in on this project, just trying to scrounge up all the information that I can find. Every now and then I'll check back in to see if there's new developments or whatever. And finally, we got an opening date of, I believe it was November of 2022. And then we finally got an official grand opening day set. And I can remember vividly coming out to this mall on its grand opening day and just scratching my head going, everything is still closed. There's police in the parking lot, like, advising people that the mall's not actually open, and I was just scratching my head, really confused, like, why would they announce a grand opening and then, not, open the mall, or at least let everyone know that, hey, there's been some delays or something. So I had to make the 2-hour drive all the way back to Cincinnati. So, a 4-hour round trip for nothing was pretty disappointing. So I began scrounging around the internet for answers as to why Window to the World didn't open on their official grand opening day. And of course, all I came up with was the usual excuses as to why a project was behind, over budget, didn't have enough finances, whatever, they miscalculated how much it was going to cost, all the usual. And I was just like, yeah, that kind of figures, but it would have been nice to know ahead of time instead of wasting a 4-hour round trip anyway. So I patiently awaited for more news about what was going on with this place in hopes that I could finally, once again, get back inside this mall and, see what was going on and see its transformation. This leads me to the pop-up shops at Window to the World. And I did do a video on these. Essentially what it was is they converted, I believe it was the Sears, they converted the Sears department store into a bunch of pop-up shops in the hopes of keeping the original tenants that were left in the mall when they closed it, keeping them in business because they wanted to include all the leftover tenants from the, old mall in this new development. And, Soho Capital knew that if those businesses went months to years without, any sales, they would just go under. So I do have to give them, credit for that where credit's due, because that is great investing in local businesses like that. I do have a video touring the pop-up shops if you'd like to see that. I'll try and remember to put a link down in the description box below. And although the pop-up shops weren't what I had hoped they would be, they were kind of, just thrown together. It was still cool to see, and I did enjoy them. And since the pop-up shops, I haven't heard anything about them. Are they still around? Are the pop-up shops still there? I couldn't find any information as of recent, as of 2024, as to what's going on with the pop-up shops. Now, after over a year since Window to the World was to hold its grand opening celebration, we finally have some new information as to what's really going on. Now, I know this news was released in early 2024, and I do try and keep up with all that's going on within the mall community, but, there's thousands of malls across the country, and sometimes information and news can just slip by. But, I've been checking in on this mall every now and then, so here's what we know as of early 2024. Here we have a news article from WTHR Channel 13, a local news channel out of Indianapolis. And you can see this is the new plans as of early 2024 to redevelop the Lafayette Square Mall. They're no longer going to be calling it Window to the World. It's going to be the Square. And you can see here's this video, and we're going to take a look at that because it goes into pretty good detail as to the new plans for the old Lafayette Square Mall.
Lafayette Square Mall has sat nearly empty for about 1.5 years now.
So the owner had some big ideas and spent millions of dollars renovating the mall buildings. Rich Nye has been following the fate of the mall for about 2 years now.
And tonight he got a look at an updated master plan that now calls for destruction before progress.
We're going to take down most of the buildings.
Fabio de la Cruz unveiled his plans for what will now be called the Square. The 115-acre mall property will include shopping, dining, housing, office space, hotels, sports facilities, and even a school in this area of the current parking lot. But the Window to the World concept introduced in November 2021, redeveloping the existing mall structure, is gone, despite millions already invested in renovations.
For me, mistakes are not wasting. You understand? For me, it's the way that you get better.
What you can see behind me is most of what will remain of the current mall structure in the updated plan for the Square. But about half of the current mall will be demolished. The new master plan calls for traditional streets and new buildings.
It was hard, it took time, but we get to something that I was even exceeding the expectations that I had when I started the process.
A lot of people want to know what's going to happen, including me. And so, but I always say and feel and believe I want him to succeed. I want him to really succeed, and he needs support in the city.
So the hope is it can be revitalized and bring redemption. I mean, we in the work of redemption being a church, but the hope is, yeah, man, the right people could be in the right room to think for everybody, and then whatever the plans is, I'm hopeful that if it is something that is actually a blessing to all in the community.
The remaining tenants were relocated out of the mall in August 2022. Shoppers World is the only store still in operation today. In Indianapolis, Rich Knight, 13 News.
So Fabio De La Cruz expects the main entrance existing in the mall structure will remain standing and be open sometime next year. He says the project now in its totality is approaching $1 billion.
So when Window to the World was announced and I saw the vision for the old Lafayette Square Mall, I was so excited to see a mall finally be revitalized and repurposed and reused and not just knocked down. But now hearing the new vision for the Lafayette Square Mall, here are my thoughts, because my very first thought on this is what a shame and what a waste. And I know that De La Cruz said, you know, all the money that he's invested into revitalizing the mall so far isn't really a loss. And I go, yeah, it really is a loss if you're just going to tear it down. I don't know. I feel like the mall structure itself, walking through that mall, it was a perfectly good structure. Like, reuse it. My thought would have been to section off the mall and have like maybe one wing of the mall could be your apartments with outside access, and you'd have like a key card to get in, and then you could get into the apartment complex, and then there'd also be another entrance exit that would lead directly into the mall portion, which would have all your shops and dining, and it would just be like this one-stop shop area where you could live, you could dine, you could shop, you know, and maybe there might be some businesses adjacent that you could work at. You know, I don't know, but that's kind of the vision that I've always wanted to see for, you know, these old malls. Just reutilize the existing structure. But this was a really good article. In fact, there were, you know, many articles covering this breaking news, but this seemed to be one of the more expansive articles, kind of showing where here is where the mall is, and these are some of the old stores that used to be in it. I don't know. The Window to the World vision was just so out there and so just different for a change that now knowing that it's just not going to be a thing is kind of sad. I kind of saw it as Window to the World was like a theme park. You know, theme parks like Cedar Point, they draw people from all over the place, from other states, and they bring in revenue for not only the city, but the state. And I saw Window to the World as this huge destination that would draw people from other states and bring an economic boom to the area. You know, I myself, living, you know, about 2 hours away, definitely would visit this place from time to time as Window to the World. I'm still planning to visit, you know, whatever this place turns into, you know, and bring you guys updates on the, I guess they're calling it the square now, you know, and as things open up and I'm able to share things with you and new information becomes available, I will definitely share it with you guys. But, you know, now I'm kind of looking at this redevelopment as more of a carnival. It's been downgraded. It's something that's, you know, not really going to attract a wide audience. In fact, you know, a lot of people will just be like, oh, it's just another mixed-use development, and it's not going to draw as many people from, you know, outside of Indianapolis. And I could be wrong, and, you know, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I am somewhat hopeful that they're saving some of the mall structure, but still, it's not. It looks like pretty much most of the old mall is going to be gone, which is so sad. It just kind of brings tears, you know, when I hear that. So I don't know. Sound off in the comment section down below and let me know your thoughts on the Window to the World project versus this new project called The Square. What do you think about it? I'd like to know. If you'd like to support this channel, you can always check out my Patreon. There'll be links in the description box below or on screen. You can also check out my YouTube membership for extra exclusive content. And of course, I'll have links to some of my previous videos on the Lafayette Square Mall as well as the pop-up shops. As of now, the pop-up shops are no longer. They're currently closed. And I didn't see that concept lasting very long, which is also kind of sad. So I'd like to thank you for joining me for this breaking news story. You can catch more of my mall content right here on the Urbex series. But I think that's going to do it for today's episode, everyone, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks, everyone.